The evidence is mounting tonight that an Iranian missile knocked a passenger airliner out of the sky this week near Tehran. Iran denies it, but the United States and several other governments say it is highly likely. Foreign Affairs correspondent Nick Schifrin begins with this report and a warning. Some of the scenes in this story could be disturbing to viewers.
There were no survivors, 176 lives lost, leaving behind only family photo scrapbooks, charred shoes, the remnants of a plane wing. And now Western officials say the Ukrainian passenger jet that went down was shot down. At 6:12 a.m. local on Wednesday, the flight took off from Tehran's international airport bound for Kyiv. After 2 minutes, it reached about 7,300 feet and contact was lost. U.S. intelligence officials and a senior administration official tell PBS NewsHour the U.S. assesses Iran fired this Russian-made missile defense system, mistaking the passenger jet for a U.S. military jet. 5 hours before, at 1 a.m. local, Iran's military launched more than a dozen ballistic missiles at U.S. forces in Iraq. U.S. intelligence officials assess after this attack, Iran was on high alert, fearing that U.S. aircraft could attack inside Iran. U.S. officials say their assessment that Iran shot down the plane is based on photos, radar data, and satellite information, including infrared detection of the missile launch. More than 60 passengers were Canadian, and today Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau blamed Iran.
We have intelligence from multiple sources, including our allies and our own intelligence. The evidence indicates that the plane was shot down by an Iranian surface-to-air missile. This may well have been unintentional.
President Trump hinted it was Iran, but emphasized the human toll.
It's a tragic thing. When I see that, it's a tragic thing. But somebody could have made a mistake on the other side, could have made a mistake.
Iran's Civil Aviation Authority today denied the accusation, saying it was, quote, physically impossible for a missile to have hit the plane. But tonight, video emerged of what appears to be a missile hitting the plane, and other videos show the plane going down and the impact caught on a CCTV camera. Today, Ukrainian Prime Minister Volodymyr Zelensky did not blame Iran, but called for an international investigation.
Undoubtedly, the priority for Ukraine is to identify the causes of the plane crash. We will surely find out the truth.
And Nick joins me now, along with our aviation correspondent, Miles O'Brien. He is in Florida. Hello to both of you. So, Nick, you've been talking to experts all day long. What are they saying about how this could have happened?
So there are questions about the system that Iran was using and questions about user error. So first, the system, Judy. The U.S. intelligence assessment is that this was an old Russian short-range missile defense system called Tor or SA-15. The hardware on that system is considered relatively reliable, but the computer software is not as sophisticated. And it's that software that it's not about targeting, but it's about knowing which plane is in the sky. And so the experts I spoke to, and they are just experts, they're outside of the government, experts I spoke to said maybe the software couldn't determine which kind of plane it was. And that's where you get user error. The time that the operator of this system had to decide what to do was seconds. The operator's sitting there just hours after that major Iranian attack on U.S. bases in Iraq, fearing that there could be U.S. jets, military jets, in the sky. And this is the fundamental nature of conflict, Judy, that miscalculations can happen. And it has happened, by the way, to the U.S. 1988, U.S.-Iran tanker war, the U.S. Vincennes, it's a warship, was skirmishing with Iranian boats in the Persian Gulf and had actually accidentally entered Iranian waters when it discovered, or it thought it had discovered, an Iranian military jet coming toward the ship. That was actually a civilian jet, but it didn't know that. It didn't quite know what it was, and so it fired. 298 people died in that mistake that the U.S. has made in the past.
So Miles, from a civilian aviation perspective, what are the questions that are being asked tonight about this?
Well, I think an important question, Judy, is Iran was on high alert in the wake of the missile attack in Iraq. A prudent thing to do would have been to make it a no-fly zone for civilian airliners, at least in the immediate aftermath of that. As Nick is pointing out, you have a system that is old already, We don't know how maintained it was. We don't know how the software was working or what it was doing. We don't know how well trained that crew was, but we do know they were on hair trigger alert. That civilian aircraft has a transponder, and it would have kicked out crucial information on what it was and what it was not. But the civilian system and the military system, wherever you go in the world, is not well integrated. And on a good day, that can cause trouble. This was not a good day. This was a very bad day.
No question. So, Nick, what is Iran saying? What are they doing about all this?
So as we reported, Iran has denied this accusation coming out of U.S. intelligence officials. The head of the Civil Aviation Organization called them illogical rumors. That's what he said today. They have been providing some details. They said other civilian airliners were in the air at the same time, and that the plane didn't go down immediately, but it was hit or some kind of mechanical failure, that's what Iran is saying, and tried to turn back to the airport. Iran has said it was willing to work with Ukrainian authorities, but Judy, this is crucial. Iran has said it is not willing to hand over the black boxes to U.S. officials.
And so that raises the question, Miles, help us understand or remind us why those black boxes matter in understanding how something like this could have happened.
Well, the objective data in those black boxes would be able to settle that alleged dispute here. I mean, the Iranians are saying it was impossible for them to shoot it down. That's patently not true. This aircraft was 4,000 feet above the ground, 7,000 feet above sea level, well within range of a surface-to-air missile. So that's wrong on the face of it. The black boxes will settle it because the data in there will be able to explain it. There might be some cockpit voice recordings that would be crucial. And that's why it's important that those boxes end up in some sort of objective hands so that the world can make an assessment.
I want to just come back to both of you on this question of no-fly zone, both you, Nick, and you, Miles, because people are asking in retrospect, why were passenger planes, civilian aircraft, still flying in a place where basically there was war?
It's a very good question that Miles raises. We do know that U.S. officials were saying avoid that airspace, and they were saying that in the days leading up to this accident. We believe this was an accident, but we don't know why Iran had decided, or Iran hadn't decided, why not creating a no-fly zone. And obviously, as Miles was saying, it would have been a prudent effort, and it obviously would have saved a lot of lives.
And Miles, do I hear you saying that if Iran had done that, civilian aircraft wouldn't have been flying?
Correct. Look what happened in the United States after 9/11. 4,500 aircraft were put on the ground in short order. There was a no-fly zone. It is the prudent thing to do in a situation where everybody is on hair trigger alert. That didn't happen in this case, and the fog of war took over.
Oh, just such a tragedy, such a tragedy. Miles O'Brien, Nick Schifrin, thank you both.
Thank you.